I hated being Vietnamese most of my life, and today I'm going to talk to you authentically about this topic. I'm not going to edit any of this. Maybe this will not go viral, but I don't care because this is just a platform for me to share my thoughts, and maybe this is relatable to you as a person who's watching this right now. And I'm creating this video because I wish a creator would have talked about this topic when I was younger because I kind of felt lonely in this entire space of, growing up with a different ethnicity in a foreign country, if that makes sense. And in case you don't know who I am, my name is David. I'm born in Germany, but ethnicity-wise, I am Vietnamese. Both my parents are from North Vietnam. My dad is from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, and my mom is from a city called Thái Nguyên, or a town, if you want to call that. And apologies in advance, my English is actually my third language. So if I do need some time to think about it, because I'm not editing anything, yeah, apologies. Just bear with me and yeah, enjoy the talk. So the first section I want to talk about is kind of my journey, how I grew up in Germany, the struggles I faced, and then we transition later on. I grew up in Munich, to be more precise. Maybe you've heard of Munich before. It's very popular for its beer, the Oktoberfest, or the football. I'm not talking about American football, the European football. FC Bayern Munich is very popular right here, and I'm really privileged to be here. That's why it's so hard to talk about this topic because, in a sense, I'm really grateful to live in Germany because it's one of the most advanced countries to live in Europe. It has great healthcare, great education, all of these things. But nevertheless, it was really hard for me as a sort of foreigner to grow up in Germany, looking completely different, having different cultures, growing up with a different language in my home as well, right? So I was born in 2001, which is a freaking long time ago. I already feel hella old because I'm 2024 this year. And most of my life, I really didn't like being Vietnamese. And that's because it already dates back to like high school, early high school, or like elementary school, if you want. Because I remember like whenever my teacher would call out the names of each student at the beginning of the year to just check the attendance, basically whenever it came to my name, I was hella embarrassed because I knew that the teacher would not be able to pronounce my name correctly, and other people would make fun of my name because of that, if that makes sense. So David is currently the name, it's actually my second legal name, but it's always the name that I introduce myself to strangers right now. I think that dates back to the time where I kind of got mocked for my Vietnamese name. My Vietnamese name is actually Phi Hoang, and it literally has a beautiful meaning in Vietnamese. It means flying king. That's what my mom says. But in school, people would never be able to pronounce it. They would say like P Huang or whatever, right? And then the kids, because they're not freaking mature enough and they're fucking assholes, would sometimes make fun of it and whatsoever, right? And that continued to high school, so forth. And that's a form of racism as well. And for a lot of other people, it might not seem like a huge thing or something, but for me, it was definitely huge just because if you constantly have to hear people making fun of your name, that does have an effect on your psyche and on the way you portray yourself. I didn't portray myself as a confident person. I was really introverted and shy because I constantly felt judged. I constantly felt like I'm not part of, the German kind of society. And even though I had some friends, even these friends were making fun of my name, and they would always, play it off as, "Oh, this is just a joke, man. You don't have to be that serious about life and about your name, right?" And in the beginning, I just laughed it off, but deep down inside, I really felt offended. I didn't like that they would make fun of my name. Nobody likes to make, if people make fun of the names, right? So that was something I had to carry on for the longest time. And I definitely know for a fact, like whenever I talk to other Asians who grew up in Germany as well, they had the exact same sort of experience. Different people deal differently with these type of things. Over time, I got more and more aggressive. So whenever people were making fun of me, I would definitely tell them like, "Yo, you cannot say that, dude. What the fuck?" Other people I know, like especially my Vietnamese female friends, they would kind of ignore it and just move on. Just because for a female, sometimes it's kind of hard if the other person is aggressive and stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say here is that high school was nice in terms of learning things. It was not nice in terms of being a foreigner, sort of growing up in the German education system, right? Yeah. So that's why I didn't like to be Vietnamese. I tried to integrate, I tried to adapt to all my white freaking friends, and it didn't really work out. I think it didn't really work out. I never felt like I was really a part of the group. And I also wasn't fully Vietnamese because I grew up in Germany. So I was kind of in this middle spot between two different cultures. And I know a lot of people can relate to that as well. And again, a lot of people deal differently with this type of topic, but I had a really hard time to deal with this. A lot of people pick one side, right? I have friends who embraced their Vietnamese side, and then other friends who just became whitewashed, what we call it. There's a funny Korean term for this. They call these type of Asians bananas because they're yellow on the outside, which is kind of racist, and then white on the inside because, yeah, they got whitewashed so crazily. For me, I was stuck in these between these cultures. I couldn't choose. I wanted to be desperately part of my German group because I wanted to have respect, but I also tried to incorporate, the Vietnamese elements. But I kind of felt like I pushed the Vietnamese side away more because of all the negative experiences I made with my Vietnamese name, right? And that changed when I went to Vietnam at age 14. That was the first time I remember, at least, when I went to Vietnam. I know my mom told me that I was in Vietnam at age 5 or something like that, but honestly, I don't remember anything from that time. So, with age 14, when I actually traveled to Vietnam, that literally changed everything for me because it was my first time that I was surrounded by people who look like me, right? Who are Asian, and also I was regarded pretty tall in Vietnam. In Germany, people are freaking tall. Like these motherfuckers are tall as hell, right? And so I always kind of feel short in Germany, but when I went to Vietnam, I was hella tall. I'm like 177 centimeters. I think that's like 5'10" in or 5'11" in US measurements. But that was the first time I felt truly accepted, not judged at all. I could introduce myself as my Vietnamese name. I was treated kind of special because they love people who grew up abroad or foreigners in general. And especially if you're Asian and you grew up abroad, you kind of regard it as somebody who's like rich or something because they just assume that if you live abroad, you have more money, which to a certain extent is true as well because of the, different value of currency. But that was the first time I realized how beautiful our culture actually is, how it feels to be completely accepted and to be surrounded by people who are just like you in a sense. And that's when I learned to embrace the Vietnamese culture more and more. And we traveled to Hanoi. We also traveled to Da Nang, Nha Trang, which is like in the middle of Vietnam, the beaches, and then also to the south, Saigon, right? And I freaking loved it. I freaking loved it. And I understood like it's not a good point to just push away this side of me because this culture, this Asian culture, is so freaking beautiful. Like, if these guys in the Western countries, guys and girls, right, eat our Asian food and love the culture, but then make fun of us, that's kind of freaking contradictory. You're just cherry picking the best parts, right? But that kind of behavior made me feel like I'm pushing away or like forced me to push away my Asian side, which was absolutely beautiful. And that's when I realized that I need to embrace my Asian side. When I came back to Germany, I didn't try to fit in anymore. Like I really literally embraced my side. And now I'm sort of in a mental mindset where I'm picking things from both cultures because although I embrace my Asian side, I still have influence from Germany because I literally lived here most of my life. And rather than seeing it as something bad to be stuck in between these two cultures, I decided to frame it as something good. You can choose positive things from both cultures. So what I like about German culture, for example, is that they're very honest and direct and punctual, except for the fucking German Deutsche Bahn train because that just fucking sucks. But that's something really cool. Like in Asian culture, you would normally not say something bad about the other person in front of the face, but rather behind their back. That's something I really don't like about the Asian part of culture. So I picked that from the German culture. But then I also pick things from Asian culture because I'm also Asian, right? And seeing things like that just made my life a lot easier. It just made my life easier. I don't know how to explain it. It just felt like now I have finally the decision. Now I can finally take the decision to frame my life the way I want it to look like, right? So one tip for you, if you're in this exact same position, just like me, right? And maybe you're in the exact same position. You're in high school, in America or in Europe, and you have a different nationality, right? And people are making fun of you. Know that it's sort of a normal process. People are not mature at this age. A lot of people who were making fun of my names back then are now more mature, first of all, and second of all, they realized that they were being freaking dicks. And even if they didn't realize, I don't give a shit anymore because now I'm actually making a lot more money than these assholes. And everything that they kind of did to me back in the past is now fuel for me to be more ambitious, to freaking show the haters that I could turn the negative energy into something positive, if that makes sense. And it might not be hard. It certainly wasn't easy for me. During my entire high school, I never felt really comfortable because of the constant judgment and racism and things. But now I have a story to tell that is more interesting, that is not average, right? So you have to decide for you how you want to deal with, living between two different cultures and how you want to react to people throwing shit at you. I think there's a very cool metaphor from Buddhism, right? If somebody gives you a gift or somebody gives you something, you can accept it or you can decline it. It's the same with racism or it's the same with insults. If somebody gives you an insult, you can decide to decline it or accept it. If you accept it, it will hurt you, right? But if you take a step back and decline it, it actually gives you more power over your reaction, because we can always decide how we react. We cannot influence how people will, behave towards us. We can only decide and, act upon our own behavior. So keep that in mind and embrace your cultures. Don't push it away. Try to experience your personal culture yourself. If your parents are from another country, talk to them, and even travel to the country if you have the opportunity to, and see for yourself with your own eyes how beautiful your culture is, and that it is something that you should be proud of. And if other people disregard it, it's their problem. It's not your problem, right? It is not because of your ignorance, it's because of their ignorance. So yeah, I know a lot of different thoughts, and I try to make it as structured as possible. But yeah, just an authentic talk with you guys, and I see you in my next video.